In other words, even if someone is raising an issue which you don't like it, don't howl. Don't howl. So we are now proceeding to the purpose of the session. Honorable members and staff which have been acknowledged, the stakeholders who are here today, we are here as the committee with a concern which was raised on the number of the road fatalities and accidents which are happening around Gauteng province. Then those accidents, there are major issues which are causing them. Some they are in the main roads, some they are in the internal roads, and some they are caused by the role of the local government not playing in terms of cutting their grasses. We are here to hear what the concern of the stakeholders and propose to us in the committee, because we are having the Department of Roads and Transport highlight those roads which you know that these are the challenging areas. Some of them will know them, issues are service delivery. We are here with one purpose, the roads, facilities and fatalities, and also the accidents which are happening. Thank you. Now we'll move to agenda point number 3, the presentation on the program to enhance road safety towards a reduction of the road crashes and fatalities. Retlokopa Chief Director Maisela. Document.
Thank you very much, Chair. Honorable members, stakeholders, colleagues from SAPS and Department of Transport, good morning. My name is Tami Maisela. I am the Chief of Gauteng Traffic Police, and as the Chair has already mentioned, I'll be giving the presentation on the road fatalities and some kind of initiatives that are being taken to make sure that we deal But the second thing, Chair, is that in Gauteng, unfortunately, the majority of crashes, as you will see, are pedestrians. And I'm going to explain how does it come about that these are all pedestrians. Now, I'm going to give a background, and I will give you the fatalities for 2018 to 2021. I will then give the strategies, road safety strategies, and some of the integrated plans, what's going to happen within the space. Then we will look at monitoring and evaluation. Just as a background, the Department of Community Safety's mandate is to ensure that all citizens in the province are and feel safe. We all know that Gauteng is an economic hub of South Africa with a human population in excess of 15.2 million. 1 in every 4 persons in the country is residing in Gauteng. The vehicle population of Gauteng only is 4.9 vehicles that are registered, which account for 38% of all vehicles registered in the country. And you find that road users are ever present on our road 24/7. Chair, one of the challenges is the fragmented law enforcement within the province in the following sense. You will find that you have different municipalities, metropolis, and they say SAPS. But the challenge is that even the deployment of law enforcement is very fragmented. In a stretch of the road, traffic, Gauteng traffic will be there, JMPD will be there, SAPS will be there, doing different things. If JMPD is not looking for tickets, SAPS are searching cars, traffic is either taking street allowance or they are mainly concentrating on taxis. Now, what then compound the problem, Chair, is that we are not on the road on 24/7 basis. As you will see that most of these accidents, they take place when law enforcement is not there, either on weekends or after 10 at most. With small municipalities like this one of Imfuleni, they work until 4. Any other work beyond that becomes overtime, which the municipality will say, we don't have money to pay. Now, you will remember that we have Vision 2055, and what I will tease what is relevant to traffic, the improvement of visible policing, the safer road environment, pedestrian safety, institutional arrangement, and traffic law enforcement. Now, Chair, you will see that, as I said, I will start from 2018 to 2021. Just in 2018, on our road, there were 2,535 people who perished on our road in 2018. 2019, there were 2,635 that perished on our road. 2020, it was 1,948. Now, let me park here a bit. You'll remember this was during the hard lockdown, level 5, where the movement of people and vehicles was limited. It was not a miracle that we had lesser fatalities during the time, but it was because of the lockdown level 5. As soon as level 5 was lifted, we then had a problem again of a spike. In 2021, again, we went back to 2,610 fatalities. Now, I'm only talking about Gauteng only. It's not a national figure, it's just Gauteng. These are the people who perish on the road in Gauteng. But what you will find interesting is that the percentage doesn't change much. And as much as you will see that most of the time we were having the problem of more fatalities passengers being the most affected victims of fatalities. Now, let us look at the road user category. You'll remember that road users are different. You have motorists, you have motorcyclists, you have cyclists, you have pedestrians, and you then have this one. I know the chair doesn't like this one, the so-called unknown road user fatality category. Not necessarily, ma'am. Now, let me deal with this one, unknown road user. If an ambulance or EMS picks up a body next to the road, this person is lying on the road, you don't know whether he was knocked down by a car, he was assaulted somewhere, brought and just dropped there. Then this person is taken to hospital. When they get to hospital, they just leave the body without saying what happened because they don't know. So this category is then said it's an unknown because you don't know whether he was a motorist, he was a cyclist, he was a pedestrian, but he's dropped at the hospital. When we gather those figures at the hospital, they just said this body was brought here. We don't know what happened to the body. Now, as I've already said, Chair, the pedestrians in 2018, they accounted for 49%. In terms of the numbers, there were 1,243 pedestrians that died on the road. In 2019, it was 1,281, which translates to 48.6. In 2020, there were 904, which translates to 46.4. 2021, 1,270. Now, there are the following issues on pedestrian. There is jaywalking. Remember, there are people who just, even where there are robots, they just pass by, they just cross. Whether the robot is red, it's green, they just go. Others, abanye bethu bagcina bathi uyangibona ngeke angitshayise. Forgetting that your measurement of that car coming might not be correct. You will think ukuthi sasegudelo monto kanti iza fast. 2, there is drinking and walking. They are just people, after they have consumed whatever, they feel that they must take a walk. In dark clothes, at night, and because they have consumed something, they think they will be faster than the cars. They cross the road, it becomes an issue. But there are also people who cross on the freeways. Others are hitchhiking on the freeway. Let me give you an example here, N3. There are people who say, I'm going to Durban, but I will hitchhike here. Imagine hitchhiking, this car comes, they want to give you a lift, but there is this truck coming very fast. You stop for this passenger, this truck won't apply brakes fast enough to avoid you. Imagine what happens then. But we have also seen, Chair, the situation of spatial development, which is a problem. And I'm going to give you an example of both Diepsloot and Soweto on the N12 West. In Diepsloot, you have the informal settlement this side, but you have amenities this side, your shop, your schools, anything that these people need. So every time they have to cross the road to get whatever they need, even if they have to go and buy bread, there are no pedestrian crossing bridges there. N14 is a freeway, people are moving fast. Sorry, vehicles are moving fast. So imagine if you also want to cross and you can't be faster than a car. That's 1. 2, on the N12 West, the so-called death band. You have an informal settlement this side, you have a cemetery, Avalon this side. This informal settlement is new. There are no taps, there is no electricity. The people in this informal settlement always have to cross the road to get water on the other side. When they go to work, they have to cross the road to wait for the taxis on the other side. And there are cars that are coming here. The unfortunate situation is that even women with kids, with children on their back, have to cross the freeway to draw water from the cemetery. And that's where most of these accidents will take place. Now, the total number of fatalities in 2021 was 2,356, which translates to 48% of all fatalities. Passengers, they are 20%. Cyclists, they are 2. Motorcyclists, they are 5%. But also drivers, be it unfit drivers because they don't have necessary papers, or they are intoxicated, they contribute 24% to the fatalities. Now, Chair, you will see that in terms of the municipalities, one of the interesting things is that fatalities and accidents have migrated from your national and provincial road to municipal roads. When I talk about municipal roads, it's really those roads that are called your M1, your M2. Provincial road will be your R roads. National roads will be your N3, your N1. Now, we see lesser accident on provincial and national roads. They have migrated to municipal road. Again, as I've mentioned, the issue of this disintegrated law enforcement, you find that in municipal roads, municipalities, it's either they are interested in the revenue generation, meaning they are looking for everybody else who owes them tickets or who have warrants, instead of dealing with unroadworthy vehicles, instead of dealing with people with vehicles without discs. Taxis, ezinye ziboshwe ngamadrati, ezinye azinamati, ezinye ubona istrati uphakathi. Now, they drive fast. There are things that you need to do in terms of law enforcement. For example, a public transport vehicle, if a driver doesn't have a license, you don't write him a ticket. It's a rightful arrest there and there. But because our interests are different and we serve different purposes, instead of arresting them, some of the officers, they rather either take whatever the operator is offering or write a ticket. Now, if you write a ticket, you are saying you can continue uzolibhadala ngelinye ilanga, so continue killing people. But it's not only that. Chair, one of the problems we are having is with our own law enforcement when it comes to pedestrian. Remember, Chair, what is the challenge now? We can no longer arrest a pedestrian, whether on a freeway or for jaywalking, because SAPS will tell you it's a big crime. You can't arrest for a big crime because they are avoiding civil suit. They will tell you, you know most of the details of this person. You can just give a citation. But the problem, Chair, is that in terms of ARTO, on an ARTO area, you can't give a ticket. 2, remember, a pedestrian who's moving is a non-motorized. So even on the system, you cannot write a ticket because the system will refuse to accept that. So all you do is to give just a slap in the hand, that's all. So there is no deterrent in dealing effectively with pedestrians. We had a project where you will get a luxury bus move around, you see somebody, uyapi baba, gibela sikupi lift. When he or she thinks it's a lift, you're actually taking them to the cop shop. But then you can't lock them up because police won't take them. So we don't really have a deterrent on pedestrians because once they see you in uniform, they will also run away on the freeways. Exactly. Or if they see our road safety educators, they also run away. So these are the challenges. But Chair, I just want to say, Johannesburg contributed more than 50% of fatalities. Now, this might appear to be a complaint shop, which the Chair said we mustn't do, but Johannesburg is having more resources than all of us. But the challenge here is that the issue, if it's not around by law enforcement and revenue, the impact of traffic law enforcement is rather minimal. That's why you see that most of these fatalities are happening within that particular area. Now, if you look at the times, most of the accidents and fatalities happen at a particular time. In particular, from 7 in the evening up to, say, 2200 or so. That's where most of these accidents are taking place. Let's take, for example, pedestrian fatalities. Between 7 and 8, there were 486. Between 8 and 9, there were 409. Between 9 and 10, there were 297. Between 2 in the morning and 3, there were only 82. Between 3 and 4, it's only 74. So you can see the hours, what you call a peak hour. Those are the hours where most of the fatalities are taking place. But what then becomes interesting, Chair, also is the days where these accidents take place. It's regrettable that it's Friday today. That's where the problems start. From Thursday, you see the trend going up. For example, pedestrians on Thursday, you'll find they are 440. Friday, 752. Saturday, 1,118. Sunday, they start going down to 890. I'm just mentioning pedestrian fatalities. Now, one of the unfortunate things, Chair, is that it's young people between ages 19 to 35. These are the candidates for Konka, News Cafe, Dross. That's where they go during that time. And that's where when you want more clients for drunken driving, you park next to Konka, you park next to Dross or News Cafe. I can vouch you'll come with a very good statistics because none of them come out sober there. And most of them are using cars. They get into the road again. Now, having painted all this bleak picture and all this bad news, the issue is not so what? What are we then doing? You will remember that, Chair, in Gauteng, we are really guided by 3 documents. We have the MEC's delivery agreement with the Premier around the reduction of fatalities. But we also have the National Road Safety Strategy, which we must give effect to. But we also have the second decade of action on road safety. Now, you will remember in January, the National Minister gave the statistics of the fatalities in Gauteng, and again, Gauteng came out as the highest province with pedestrian fatalities. And as a result of that, a directive was issued that fatalities must not only be a traffic issue, but it now must also serve as the provincial joints committee to try and address them. Subsequent to this, what we have then done is the following. We all know that criminals, even criminals, they use the road network both for committing the crime, but also it has been said traffic must begin to have law enforcement operation aimed at making Gauteng safe. What this means is the following: have high density operations, have critical period operations. As you will see, we'll show which are those critical periods where we need to intensify our operations, but have focus areas, what you call hazardous location. Hazardous location will be those areas where you know that most of the accidents are happening in this particular area. But also begin to have awareness campaign, media coverage of all these operations and their successes. The high density focus areas will be on pedestrians, reckless and negligent driving, in particular the head-on collisions that are taking place, the non-utilization of safety belts. I'm not sure why, but there's this tendency of motorists, when they go to the city, they fasten their safety belt. When they come to the township, they don't fasten their safety belt. There is even a talk, Chair, and when you stop a motorist and say, I'm giving you a citation for fasi band, they ask you to come up, then there is an issue of worn out tires. There is an issue of fatigue, in particular, public transport and freight vehicles, your truck drivers, who will go to Cape Town and come back without taking any rest. This person will then sleep on the road. Even if there is the band, he won't see the band, then imagine what happens. But also the chasing of money by taxi drivers lead to fatigue and lead to most of the road accidents. I've already mentioned the issue of substance abuse, alcohol, and drugs that are being used. Now, in terms of the critical dates where these operations will be intensified is around Easter build-up areas, which is the 1st to the 12th of April. Then we have the 13th to the 18th of April, which is the Easter weekend. And this is characterized by many people going for religious pilgrimages. You have the N12 going to Silo, you have the N1 going to Moria, and other smaller nyana pilgrimages. But also it is the time where most of the people will be going to their homelands, and most of the people will be using public transport. Some will all even be hitchhiking on the freeways. Then you have public holidays like Freedom Day, Workers' Day, Youth Month, Women's Month, Heritage Month. Then in October, we have what is called a public transport month, where operations are really focused on all public transport vehicles, making sure that there is compliance with them. Then after that, we have the 16 days of activism, but immediately after the 16 days, then we start the festive season, where we also have most of the people traveling, and those contribute.
Can you use a click, because even at the teams they don't, you are still in the
apologies,
the old slides, because move it, because they are also send a message that where is my seller now presenting, please.
Okay, thank you. I apologize, Chair. I was on the critical dates, and these are really the critical dates that we will intensify our operations. I was saying on number 11 is the festive season operation, but also in February you'll know that there is a safety month. Then end of March is the end of the Q4, where we close our year. The focus areas will be as follows. It will be on traffic law enforcement, crime prevention, as I've already said that criminals also use vehicles, whether stolen vehicles or vehicles transporting illegal substances, even transporting stolen goods. It will be around road safety campaigns. There are different campaigns, for example, campaigns for paraplegics, campaigns for travelers, but also engagement with truck drivers and pedestrians on issues around road safety. Then we have what is called mass measuring overloading. Most of you will see that we have on the N3 and on the N4 what is called the TCCs, Traffic Control Centers. These are the places where we weigh all the trucks, because most of these trucks, they carry freight, and because some of them, they overload these trucks, they also damage our road infrastructure. So what then happens is that we measure these trucks to make sure if it's beyond the legal measuring, we either arrest or we actually force them to rectify the load. Now, one of the challenges we have, maybe you might have seen, is what is called abomalaisha. These are the cars, unfortunately, most of them, they are going to SADC countries. Very overloaded with everything you can think of. Food, even at times they carry mattresses and all that stuff, and they use either unroadworthy trailers or highly overloaded trailer. Now, imagine this overloaded trailer being pulled by a quantum. It goes on a downward slope. Once the driver tries to apply the brakes, the trailer goes the other way. Because it's heavy loaded, it takes the car with it. That's how they roll. The challenge then on law enforcement is that it becomes war with them. Because what happens is that there are people whose job is to carry these things to Zimbabwe or Zambia. So when you say you must offload, this car is not going, they will physically fight you, because it means this load won't reach to the desired person and the person has already paid. Now, most of the accident happens, and the criticism is that from other provinces, how did they leave the source? And the source is Gauteng. So Mpumalanga, Limpopo will say it's actually Gauteng that is creating problems for us, because they leave these cars to come and cause accidents in our province. Let me give you an example. There was that bus that overturned with most people there. It had load, but it was overloaded. The real challenge there was that at times they have also become clever. They don't use the roads that they know there will be law enforcement. They use your escape roads or your dusty roads. So that bus was from Carltonville, but it never used N12. It used the back road. It appeared towards Friede, using the back roads. Now, when you say why didn't Gauteng stop it as a source, the reality is that it never used that. But what we have begun to do now is to also close all the escape roads for freight and overloaded vehicles to make sure that they have no way to escape. But there's also been an integration of law enforcement in the following sense, Chair. Because most motorists and some of the people here are also motorists, they know this trick. They usually say, after 10, there are no traffic officers on the road. So you can do whatever you want. What we have begun to do is to talk to neighboring provinces. If Gauteng, we start our shift at 2, it means it will end at 10. Mpumalanga cannot start their shift at 2. They must either start at 8 or at 9, an 8-hour shift, so that by the time you pass Gauteng, if you manage to flee Gauteng, you will find Mpumalanga waiting for you. If you are going to Free State will not start at 10, they will start at, say, at 11 or 12. So that if you manage to evade Mpumalanga, Free State will catch you. Then KZN will start the shift in the morning, because in the early hours, that's why you reach your destination. You'll find them waiting for you. The same process will happen when they come back, that Gauteng will start their shifts early in the morning to make sure that there is no way that you don't find law enforcement. So we are creating what is called a situation of omnipresence, so that every time you think that I might meet them somewhere. The fact that you manage to elude them in Gauteng does not mean you will elude them in Mpumalanga and Free State. Somewhere you will get caught. Then there are, of course, social crime prevention initiatives that will also be undertaken to deal with this one. In terms of communication and awareness campaign, we want to ensure that the consequences of unsafe behavior are clearly communicated to stimulate change in behavior of motorists and pedestrians. Remember, Chair, that a motorist, the first interaction of a motorist with a law enforcement agent, the motorist will behave for the next 20 minutes because he will think they are still here. So we want to instill that behavior by creating a situation of omnipresence. Though abanye bathi siyamile estradini sifihla phakathi kwezihlahla, because you just appear here where they least expect you. Activate public relations message that promote voluntary compliance by road users. Promote awareness of programs that encourage traffic laws during Easter period. And we also want to market road safety slogans. We want to activate public relations campaigns that offer road safety tips to caring organizations. And we want to have closer interaction with motorists other than arresting or giving them a citation. We also want to begin engaging with them. When they see the uniform, they don't run away, but you use the other E, which is education, just to educate them about their behavior towards road safety. Of course, the Provincial Secretariat will be monitoring all these operations. The Gauteng Law Enforcement Agency Forum, in particular the Subcommittee on Traffic Fatalities and the Provincial LEDCOM, will assess the impact of this operation using monthly reports and traffic statistics. In each and every corridor in the province, Chair, we'll make sure that there are outputs for all planned operations, and we'll also make sure that we adjust our plans as to address whatever is a hazardous location, but also where there are road risks. You remember, our plans are not static because they are also determined by what is happening outside and on the road. Now, there are risks. Among the risks, Chair, that we are saying, there is always the issue of bribery and corruption. And remember, in a corruption, it's a dual transaction. There is a corrupter and a corruptee. The language of askhulume, when you are supposed to enforce, some of the risks that we are identifying. But we are glad to mention, honorable members, that we have started with the consultation around the implementation of the 24/7 And the Premier Budget Council have also provided funds for us to implement the 24/7 chair, which will be much better moving forward. Now, while it will be better, but it also means we will have to supplement some small municipalities who do not have sufficient resources to deal with these issues. You will remember that one of the challenges we have is that some of the prosecutors do not know about the National Road Traffic Act. As a result, some of our cars use very high technology. For example, we have speed recording measures in the car. So I can follow you for a kilometer or two while you are exceeding speed and arrest you. But you find that because the prosecutor doesn't understand how we log the speed, most of these cases get withdrawn, which is really a frustration at times. But also, Chair, our laboratories are a bit of a problem when we draw blood for drunken drivers, because the turnaround time for the blood to be caught is taking long. But what we have begun to do, as we have mentioned in the past, we are now establishing what is called an evidentiary bus center. In other words, when we arrest you, we no longer take you to hospital where the casualty, the doctor will say, I have to resuscitate these people. These drunkards are not a priority. So we are now taking blood there on the spot. We don't even breathalyze you. We take blood there and there. And it gives you the reading immediately, so that when we take you to court, there's already blood. And we hope to be able to then deal with the issues of withdrawal of drunken driving cases, but also making sure that we speed the prosecution of this. Then there are issues around Pedestrian Bridge, Chair. Let's take, for example, R562, your old Olifantsfontein Road and Winnie Mandela. They have built a pedestrian bridge there, just like an N12. But people don't use those bridges to cross. They still use the freeway to cross. Partly, when you ask them, they say, bayasikhuthuza la bridge nebusuku. So asifuna ukuhamba la bridge. But their non-utilization of the bridge, it means they cross the freeway, or at least they cross the road where vehicles are driving fast. At times, they are wearing very dark clothes, and that becomes a problem. So an interaction with local government in terms of street lighting and making sure that the roads infrastructure is improved becomes important. Then there is an issue around unsafe environment, potholes on the road. Most of you saw the roads, how they are here. And remember, one of the causes of the accident is the road environment itself. Then we are saying that most of our law enforcement or other agencies, they concentrate on issuing tickets instead of dealing with moving violations like your cell phones, your non-wearing of safety belt, or your chatting while on the issue. Then we have already mentioned the legal challenges with ARDO. That constitutes my report, Chair. Thank you very much, and honorable members. Nyabo.
Thank you, and Maisela Tammy for the presentation. Before I hand over to Honorable Kanyile, let me welcome the Councillor of Ward 42, Morena Molefe. We are glad you are here. Mumabu, you are welcome. Member Kanyile, over to you.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you very much, Ntate Maisela, for the presentation, which was very clear. As the Chair has indicated, the purpose of this session is for us as the committee of the legislature to assess the implementation and effectiveness of the road safety plans to reduce road crashes and fatalities in Gauteng. As the Community Safety Portfolio Committee, our main responsibility is to make sure that those that have the responsibility to implement, in this case, the Gauteng Traffic Department, they should be doing they must do what they say they are going to do. So they've given us what their analysis of the problem is, what they are doing to try and mitigate that. But we need to hear your views, because the legislature depends on you as communities, as stakeholders, to ensure that it strengthens its work to oversee the work that is done by the department. Now, what we're going to do, we're going to open up for the following. I know that there are some of you who've got questions to Mr. Maisela, so we'll open up for that. But also we will open up for you to share with the committee your own experiences on the road, on issues that contribute to road deaths. Let me use the simple word, road deaths, because if I say fatalities, it seems like it's a very difficult thing. From your own experiences, what you think contribute to road deaths. But most importantly, we want you to help us as a committee on what we need to do to ensure that we reduce, or there's reduction of road fatalities, first by the department itself, secondly by the municipal traffic, or in the metros, it's metro police departments, but thirdly by us as communities. What must be done? So we'll appreciate that you assist this committee in those three areas. One, if you've got further questions you want to ask Baba Maisela, do so. Secondly, with your own experience, share with us what you think are the reasons that we've got so much death on our roads. And thirdly, and most importantly, what you suggest should be done, particularly by this committee, to ensure that the Gauteng Traffic Department does its work, the municipal police departments in metros and traffic departments in local municipalities do their work, what government must do to ensure that there's reduction of road deaths or road fatalities, and what communities themselves, whether it's youth organizations, whether it's churches, whether it's business, what they should do to ensure that they contribute towards this. So I'm going to open up for comments. We will note the hands. For now, we are just going to take maybe a few hands and hear what comments are there, and then we'll see how we move forward. We're looking for hands. How about la bua ka Sesotho? O ska tshaba hobane re a gona re utlo re o reng ba ba sa utlwing re tla ba thusa hore ba utlo wena no reng ha o botsa potso ya hao kapa ha o tlisa hore wena o bona hore ntho re di etse jwang. So if isilungu siyakuhlula ungasabi khuluma nangesizulu ngoba sizokhona ukuthi laba bangezwa sibachazela ukuthi wena uthini ngoba into ebalekile umbono wakho. Over to you. Number one. Number two. Okay, re tlo kopa hore ha o emela o re jwetse hore wena o mang lebitso la hao, ha o fetsa bo utsho re mhlomo o tlile mo o le mong kapa o tlile ho representa organization e itseng and then bo tswela pele o be either potso ya hao kapa hore wena o tshwantse re sebetse jwang as I've explained. Thank you very much.
Good morning to everybody in the house. My name is Mvula Malindi. I reside here in Evaton. I came here with an organization called CPF. So my take on the issue is that the license department is issuing licenses through corruption. I think that's why most of the accidents are happening in our country. So through that corruption, even those who know how to drive or want to do a license, because of the corruption, the money goes up. So those who can drive and want to go through it the right way, they cannot, because the monies now are going up. You cannot take learner's driver's license with the exact amount that is supposed to be taken with. So now I think that if the government can take on the driving department officials who are doing all the corruption and handing out the licenses for monies, maybe the fatalities and the accident might go down. That's what I think. Thanks.
Thank you very much. What I like with what you've done, you didn't just tell us what is the problem, you even told us what needs to happen. So thank you very much for that. Number 2.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Ritsibile Mleleki. I'm from the organization Pilunolo Home-Based Care for Disability. My question or the request for the department. Other taxis are not roadworthy, but they are taking people to where they want to go. And other taxi drivers do not listen to the passengers. They speed up and they tell the passengers that they are working with time. I remember there was a time I was going with my mom to Vanderbilt, and there's this taxi driver was very speeding up the car. And my mom was like, "Hi bo, ntate, oko emise hanyanyana, o kalamisitse batho ka koloi ena." And tato no aba shouta, "Aga emkhono, ga wana le nna, nna ke tatile ke tsamaisa batho." So it is important for the department to take out all the taxis that are not roadworthy, and then also make the meetings for the people that are in charge to speak with their drivers that they need to respect all the passengers in the passengers in the taxis. My other point is that the taxi drivers now are not respecting the protocols regarding the COVID-19. They allow people to not wear masks in the taxis. So it is important that people take protocols to that. So as the department, you need to take out all that. The taxi driver needs to respect us and also listen to us as we speak in the taxis.
Thank you. Are there more hands? Zikhona ezinye izandla. 1, 2. Ngisabona ezu-2 kuphela. Singaqhubeka. Yebo.
Dumelang, lebitso la ka ke Mamphokane Mokoena. Ke a utlwa problem re beya ho di traffic officer le eng. Re tlamehile re qale pele ka di-taxi owners tse nkang batho ba senang di-license. Ha qetile motho o a senang license o a ba re palamisa. Ha qeta ho palamisa how o re ho yena kora entle ke batla ho bea tjena banka batho bana ba tswang ka ntle hobaneng ha ba batle ho patala batho ba tswang ba ka mona ka hara South Africa batho ba tswang ka ntle ha wena o le nna ke le Mamphokane mo ke tlamile hore taxi owner impatale 2000 one ha ba itse 1003 o tlo e amohela baneng hana ya pele hana ditshwanelo tsa ka mona ya bobedi ha ana license. So ho bua le rona ha communication ya rona ha itlo ba sharp baneng hobane ha ke mo jwetsa hore ntate ha o bua le rona o tlamile hore o ithobe a ke ba a etsa ntho ke hopola ka letsatsi le re palame taxi ke ya Hoodkop ja re shouta a speeder a re jwetsa hore owner ya hae yona e batla go checka mantsibuwe ha re fitla Plaha Armstrong ya di officer di le teng ja ba monka ene ke le ka rata bontate bao ba e sebetsa setho ba hla ba monka ba go palamisitse batho re shebile speed sa wena hlothe ka nthe hana le mangolo a se le motho wa ka mo eo he ke rata nna ke kopa hore e qale ka di owner tsa di taxi a se kaofela re nang le dikoloi ka di owner tsa di taxi ha o ka qala ka tsona ba tloela le ho limitela bana ba bangwe ba batla 3000 ka letsatsi tlo nka ka 3000 mahareng a selemo je re palama re lo etsang toropong goba ha re sebetse bongata ba rona tanki ke a itebola.
Dumelang panel. Lebitso la ka ke Eric Motswane. I come from an organization called SABOA, South African Bus Operators Association. I'm the provincial executive. What I would like to raise here is that of lately there's been a spate of violence against bus operations in Gauteng, Joburg, especially long distance bus operations. You could have picked up cases like in Orlando, Alex, Bara. This violence is intensifying and it's making it extremely difficult for these bus operations to take place. We may be aware that bus operations form part of integrated public transport system, where public transport is supposed to be integrated, where passengers are supposed to find or have a choice to make in terms of what public transport they use. And we want to appeal to the Department of Community Safety to assist us. If possible, assist us with a focus, an office that will be able to focus on these complaints such that they are addressed. We may be aware that transport is devolving, public transport tenders that are moving from provincial Department of Transport to municipalities. So if this problem is not addressed, and the municipalities are going to have to deal with more public transport in their areas, and the violence is still there, we could face problems. Lastly, when Tate Maisela was making a presentation, in one of his last slides, there's a line there that talks about focus on the output of the operations, that there's more focus on documentation, violation of documentation than moving violation. I'm really impressed by that line. It has always been my view that if you stop a taxi or a bus, you may not see its roadworthiness because you're standing in front of it. But actually, you find that that taxi is moving like a crab, but you can't see it when you are standing in front of it. And 5 kilometers after it left you, it rolls over and people die. So I like that item. Whoever came up with it really applied their minds. I would really like to see that being ventilated properly and attended to, it will add to a lot of safety in terms of fatalities. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there more hands? Something. Number one, le mover.
There's
Okay.
hands as well on Teams, Chair.
Legai?
Retain
Ke
Lukai.
puseletso Makgalemele ke leloko la SGB mane Botlehadi primary school. Ne re kopa o lokisetswa tsela ya Wood Road. Dikoloi tsa dititjhere di kgone ho tsamaya ka moo. And then ne re kopa ditsela tsa rona di lokiswe di tlohelle ho petjwa because di dula di tshipeya dikoloi ya di kgone ho tsamaya.
Okay, thank you. Noted. Any other comments or questions or suggestions? There's a hand on the, okay, let's hear. I hope we'll be able to hear it. We told there's a hand.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much indeed for the opportunity. Thank you a lot, Dr. Maisela, for a detailed presentation. Chair, am I audible?
Yeah, let me just find out where is the hand. Which is it on Teams or what? Okay. We are trying to sort out the audio system here, so if you can just start from the beginning because we couldn't hear you properly.
Yes. Am I audible now, Chair? Hello, am I audible?
Let me just say that we are still struggling. We are trying all the best to ensure that we can hear what you are saying. As they are busy trying to sort tso di chong tshwa re di recorde re tlo gona re re di follow up re khutle le go wena hape so ha o sa bui ba o recorda o tlo ba bima re follow up so re kopa re tswela pele.
Okay, ke puseletso Makgalemele hape ke leloko la SGB Botlehadi primary because we want to take them up as well. I'm trying to check if we've been able to sort out the on the system. If you can go ahead again, let's try and see if we can hear you.
on the system.
Good morning, everyone. Am I audible now, Chairperson? Hello, am I audible?
Can I make a suggestion, because we still can't hear you? I know it's a difficult thing sometimes to ask. With Teams, you can be able to write your question, and then we will be able to follow up on that. If you are able to do so, please write it on the platform so that we can be able to respond to you. But I've been asked that if you can try again, let's see if we can get through to you now.
Yeah, there is still feedback from my end. I'm not sure if I'm audible.
Thank you very much. You can go ahead.
Hello, so now I can go ahead. You are able to hear me.
If you can go ahead.
Okay, Chairperson, thank you very much indeed. Hopefully this time I'm audible. I'm not talking to myself. Yeah, given that there are still some I think I will take up the opportunity given the option. My question maybe on the chat, because I can see that is difficult for the committee to hear me. So that is what. Thank you.
If you could go ahead, because we can hear you now, although don't worry with audio, the team there is recording what you are saying. So if you can go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much, Chair. Yeah, I'm getting in touch. But yeah, briefly, I want to thank the presentation that is. I concur with that, but let me record that it's very rapid. We are subsidies well as IRPTN. We are the operator on behalf of this. Now, I just want to share my own experience. What leads to road accidents, fatalities? I would
may I just indicate that the problem, I think it's your network, because we can hear you, but you are staggering. So I think there's a problem with your network where you are, but we can hear you when that you are on the platform. But the problem is you are staggering. So I think it's the problem of the network where you are at.
Okay, let me just on the chat room.
Thank you very much for that. Are there more hands in the house here?
May I make a comment? Yes.
I'll allow Honorable Kosimalobane.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you very much, Ntate Maisela, for the presentation. The first comment is I'm going to request that because majority of the people who are present here are actually pedestrians, and I'm sure they're interested to know exactly what are the statistics. You have given the statistics from 2018 at 48%, 2019 at 48.6%, but I don't have 2019, 2020, 2021, and 2022. I think it is important to also indicate to us the real causes of this fatalities. Is it alcohol consumption or is it something else? So that when we have interventions, those interventions are based on the facts that are presented to us by yourself. The other issue that I need to indicate to the House, except if ungazange ulibeke inyawo esikolweni, lento le can be resolved by look right, look left, look right again. And people seem to ignore those basic things in life of really adhering to that look right, look left, look right. On our way here, most people, despite the bad roads in this region, people are still walking on the roads as opposed to be walking on pathways or commonly known as pavements. So I think I'm actually expecting a law enforcement agency or office indicating such. The other issue that I want to raise, it's about corruption. I still believe that we are not having strong campaigns, with women, which I think it's a campaign that I support, about ukubulala kwabomama nabantwana. We've got strong campaigns to deal with that. And during the 16 days activism, during 16 days of activism, we emphasize that particular campaign. But during Transport Month, we actually don't see a campaign that deals with corruption amongst our law enforcement agencies. And as long as we don't talk about it, we don't have a strong campaign, this thing won't stop. We had a campaign called Take Your Tiger Back. As soon as one disappeared, the campaign also disappeared. And I think it was a very effective, it was a shocker for taxi people, because omnikezi tiger yake back was actually, will be shocked. Only find that it's actually a symbolic handing back of his tiger that he once gave our officers, and it was officers who were handing over that tiger back to law. So I think it is important that when we deal with corruption, and particularly corruption that affects the lives of people, where people die because of corruption, we really need to be serious and actually develop a strong campaign where people will be reminded whether in a year there's 1 month to remind them. Let's actually do so. In dark areas, Chair, and I'm reminded by Mr. Maisela when he raised the issue of unknown road users. On your way to Brongospruit, the area is very dark there. People get drunk, they walk on the streets, and there's a lot of there's a lot of hit and run. At some point, I had gotten Kibelis Tumbo on my way to, and you could just imagine it's something that
stayed in my mind for, I think, for a year. I'm still scared when I see something on my, and driving at night, when I see something on the road, I panic. And we only realized what is to because I had to Kibela Sona and meeting Amapois on my way there in Prongo Spruit. It was in the early hours of the morning. Good being happy, naming ne right to go Tagata. So I was on my way to go Tagat. So I had to ask the police, Uguti, there's something in Kibeli la Papambili. If it's a dog, Nzobona ngokuthi lingabi khona, but if it's a person, Nzobona ngani ukuthi ni redirect imoto. And definitely when I came back, and I was still in a hurry because I didn't have to again, I then realized that it was a body. So these are things that, you know, at some point we had such campaigns, horror campaigns where people will be shown, if you drive you might become a victim of a hit and run car. Again, it takes us back to the hit and it takes us back to pedestrian safety education, where people are being taught to goodbye Sabi Moto. And I think, again, I'm requesting that the investment that used to be there in terms of community education need to be reintroduced, including that campaign of showing a parent being embarrassed by being arrested whilst her children were watching here. I know the human rights people raised an issue, but what's the use? Because if because if you actually don't arrest such a person, the possibility of killing herself and killing the children is very high. So my plea, Chair, is that let's then reintroduce those campaigns. They were effective. There was no reason to stop them. We really need to make sure that we know. And of course, our stakeholders need to help us in doing so. Because schools, I've also realized that the school safety campaigns are beginning to go down. And I'm not sure what is the reason, Mr. Mayesela, because the look right, left, right campaign happened at the schools, and some of us still remember it because we were taught it lapo. Brushing your teeth, majority of us were taught by Colgate, the company Colgate. That's why every toothpaste we call it a Colgate. So, because it stays in your mind, and that's what we're actually requesting, Gucci. If we can also invest or reinvest, I don't want to say invest, reinvest on those campaigns that happens in schools, we'll actually see some dramatic reduction of road fatalities in our, at some point we did get a 16% reduction. And I think we can still get a 16% reduction. And talk about excited that you have achieved something, then the following year, also making a campaign and it's back to 48%. I mean, it's an embarrassment. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Kosimalobani. I'm looking at other members, and if there are still more hands also. Honorable Shackleton.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, Chairperson. Dumilang, Sanbonani, Molweni, hello everyone. So when we have a document here with us that says that according to the Department of Community Safety's own statistics, that 7 road users are killed per day in Gauteng. Assuming that that is true, I'd like to ask the presenter from the Traffic Directorate, do you have any solutions that you think would be able to reduce this, which may need increased money from the Department of Safety, that might need increased shifts, Basically, how can we help you to put pressure, I think, onto the Gauteng provincial government, onto the head of department, onto the MEC to ensure that changes are made. One example that I've consistently proposed, and it doesn't mean that it's the only solution. The only reason why I keep proposing this is because the Gauteng Traffic Police falls within the department, right? So I've been saying for a long time, let's make the Gauteng Traffic Police a 24-hour service. To me, that's one solution because the department pays for it and it's within its control. But I think perhaps the presenter and others working within the Traffic Directorate, yourself, seeing these things on a daily basis in your own working life, even more so than the people on this committee ourselves. Perhaps you can make some proposals and recommendations that we can take forward, we can ultimately adopt as a committee, and we can turn this whole road fatalities issue around. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Let me ask if there are any, maybe I should give this opportunity now to Ntate Maisela, if he's got any comments. I know what we have done, we've made suggestions on what needs to happen. You might not have to comment on all the suggestions, but where you think it's necessary, you can do so. But before we do so, there's another hand at the back. Ntate Molemrao.
I want to ask my leaders there at the so my question is, do you think if our leaders are corrupt, how can we at the grassroots level can we get rid of corruption? Because automatically the whole street is dirty. So how can how can the root be clean while all the tree is dirty? For an example, you go to the street. How can a traffic cop cannot take a bribe of 100 rand because you don't get paid enough, while the president and his ministers getting millions of rand in their pockets? And how can those people who are there, who've got millions of rand, make corruptions? And while I don't even have bank account, I can stop making corruption. So I find it too difficult to understand why we are here talking about those things instead of bringing us answers to us why people are doing this. The police, they cannot stop drug dealers here on the gate. Why? Because those drug dealers, they have money to bribe them. And I cannot refuse the bribe if I get 7,500 rand a month. Can I refuse it? While someone who earns millions of rand can take millions of bribes. So I do think now we are sitting in a futile meeting. We are just treating the symptoms, but not the root of the cause of all what we are talking about. But if we can stop about dealing with the symptoms and dealing with the source of the real source of what is happening, that is then whereby we will get the solution. But this is the futile meeting that we are having, because now we are dealing with the symptoms. So could you please deal with the source? So even the crime, that is why it is high. We don't deal about poverty. We deal about crime. What is the cause of crime? So we can deal about crime. What causes crime? So we don't talk about what causes crime, but we talk about crime. So what causes crime is poverty. In 1994, the biggest mistake, what we experienced, when Nelson Mandela said,
please sit down.
We are all equal.
Abuti, please sit down.
Okay.
We're talking about road safety here. Ne?
Sorry.
Not, yeah. So, ke kopa gore o focus on issues of road safety in order for us to come up with a solution to that. If you don't have anything about road safety, then speeches are also Mandela. Thank you very much. Can you give him back the mic if he's got issues on road safety, and if he doesn't, then let's get someone else.
Our streets, madam, have grass. You can go outside there. There is no street inside the Evaton at all. The children and the cars, they are walking by side with us. There is no road. Inside the road where the cars are supposed to, like for example, there's a lot of grass, lot of sewage. It's smelly when you get outside in the gate. We don't even have street light at night, so that is why people are get raped. Stealing is too high. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Just before we bring Tate Maisela back, I hope that at some stage in our society, we will get to where we don't put ourselves in a corner just because we say some solutions cannot be solved until others are resolved. Because sometimes if we get into that mentality, we'll find a situation where the ordinary people suffer themselves. So we must continue to ensure that we deal with the issues of our problems, of the issues of our people. We resolve them. We must be committed and not be deterred from that. But because we know already that there are attempts to deal with bigger problems that are confronting us. Tate Maisela, can I ask if you've got any other comments you want to make before I hand back to the chair, because I see there are no more hands. I hand back to the chair, for the chair then to inform us on the way forward. Tate Maisela.
Thank you very much, Chair. On the issue, Chair, of corruption in the DLTCs, the Chair will remember that what is currently happening, there is a process of trying to resolve the issue of corruption in the driving license testing centers, which is the so-called online booking system. But we know that the driving schools are opposed to that, such that they have closed DLTCs to try and force the RTMC not to do that. And the problem, Chair, is that that process is actually aimed at eliminating the corruption at the DLTCs. We hope a solution will be found faster on that. The issue around unroadworthy taxis and taxis that are excessively speeding. We have two departments, the one responsible for regulation of the public transport industry, the other one responsible for enforcement. But what we have seen is that this silo mentality is actually one of the causes of the challenges we are having. So there is now an MOU between community safety and transport to try and deal with some of those issues, Chair, that they are complaining about. Because a taxi that is not roadworthy is not supposed to be operating, but the person says in a license, in an operating license. So these are the issues we hope the MOU between us and transport will then deal with that. In South Africa, the National Road Traffic Act says, if you are carrying a license from a foreign country, if that license does not have a translation, let's say uphethe i-license yensimbi, kunalaba about motor license, I keep a cut lensimbi, the steel license. If it does not have a translation of the regulations, you are regarded as not having a driver's license in South Africa. Now, this is what I was saying, Chair, that unfortunately, we still need to get our house in order as law enforcement, because once you produce that license and I say you don't have a license, I can't give you a ticket. I must arrest you because you are driving a public transport vehicle. So you can't drive a public transport vehicle without a license. Unfortunately, as I've already said, because of some weaknesses in the system, some of our colleagues are actually taking advantage of that situation. Ntate Mtshwane, I think Ntate Ramokhwasi is here from Department of Transport, but the issue, we had thought we had dealt with the issue of buses and taxis, because the issue that the taxis are raising is that a bus works on a timetable. It's a scheduled service. But because of financial situation, you find that taxis are saying some of the buses are now doing taxi service kind of a thing. Because your timetable will say you get to Barra at 9, you load whoever you load, 9:15 you leave. But you find that because there are no passengers, the bus will remain for a long time. And taxi guys are saying, you are now taking our passengers. Because after your time you must leave. You are working on a scheduled service. So it might be this, Chair, that we will have to take this offline. But while we thought the problem was sorted with Abo Hawk Mlaba and them, Naboki Majolta, it's not sorted. We'll have to go back on that one to try and deal with the problem. Madam Kosimalobani, the following are some of the causes of fatalities. I've mentioned that there is a human factor, but there is also a road environment. There is also a road user. Now, the road user, let's take a pedestrian, for example, issues around jaywalking, issues around drunken walking, wearing of dark clothes where you are not easily visible. Do you still remember the issue you were raising about the headphones? There are kids who will walk with the way, even if you blow your hooter, they won't hear you because they are walking on the road with headphones. Those are some of the issues, but it boils down to one thing: disregarding of the traffic law. If the law says keep left, pass right, whether you decide to pass right, that's one of the issues. But this issue of jaywalking and people wearing dark clothes, the National Road Traffic Act says you can't walk on the freeway unless there is an emergency. You can't cross the freeway. This thing of hitchhiking is also a problem. But also the road environment also contributes, as I've already said, that more interaction with the local government and the road agencies is important to deal with issues of vandalization of road furniture, but also making sure that there is street lighting, there are pedestrian bridges for people to cross. One of the issues people usually say is that anything that is human-made is bound to fail or is having some limitation. As a result, there is now a new concept called e-policing, meaning you are moving towards digitization of policing. Among the things we are piloting is what is called the body cam and the dash cam. In other words, if I stop you, I must have a body camera within me, which communicates with the radio room. If I stop you, the radio room is able to see that I'm stopping this vehicle. And if there's any transaction, they are able to see the transaction that I'm making. If I stop a taxi, and I say I'm impounding this taxi, the radar room will know that I'm impounding the taxi. If it does not come to the pound, where did it go? I must then explain where did it go. It's not only preventing corruption, it's also preventing the killing of officers on the road, so that you know where were you, what were you doing. That's why some motorists are difficult. When you stop him, you say, no, I don't want to talk to you. Come in front of the car. If I say come in front of the car, because I want the camera to capture you, so that the radar can see. But you'll find him say, Askhulume, Imala, Askhulume. Let's talk here. If we talk here, the camera does not take the photo. So that transaction is happening there. That's why we are now saying officers will be charged if there is a body camera, you are having a dash cam and a body camera, and there is some kind of disruption of that process, then you'll have to deal with the officer.
Tate Maisel, I think you are now answering everyone. I think there are suggestions made which the best way is that we process them properly so that they have meaning.
This is the last one,
So yeah,
on
okay.
members of the Shackleton. Say two things. We, as you know, that we have always said that one of the problems for the 24 service not to happen is because anything beyond 8 hours and over weekends is overtime. But now the process has started. We have had consultation with organized labor that all traffic officers, their conditions of employment will be changed to be shift workers. We already have money to implement the 24/7, which we thank the committee for that pressure. Two, one of the things you might help with is lobbying the changing of ARTO. The fact that you can't deal with a pedestrian on an ARTO area, you can't give a citation, you can't also arrest because police say it's because it might help to change the regulation so that we are able to also give citation to pedestrian. And the RTMC has said it's possible, but they need lawmakers to do that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Those of us who has not yet raised whatever they needed to raise, we just want to indicate that there are people we're working with. One of them is here. Roy, if you can raise your hand. Roy, if you can raise your hand. Roy, if you can raise your hand. There's one of them. There are others at the back. You can always make your suggestions with them. Tabse, maybe also raise your hand. So you can give them your issues so that you can take them forward. What's going to happen, I'm going to, as per our program, I'm going to hand over to the chair to then give us the way forward. Thank you very much. Over to you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Member Kanyile, for facilitating the deliberation, and also thanks Tate Maisel for the presentation and also responding on some of the issues which they've been raised. With regard to the way forward, according to the committee, we did not achieve what we wanted to achieve with regard to how are we going to be able to reduce the roads accident and the facilities. We are appreciating the inputs received from the stakeholders who are here today, but our report will not be able to be convincing in terms of presenting it to the legislator that these are the different inputs, comments which we receive from the stakeholders. But we are suggesting now that those that they have inputs with regard to how should we reduce the road crashes and facilities in Gauteng, not only particularly in Evaton. Can they submit their inputs to Tabile? But as the committee, we are still going to sit down and come with another area where we'll be able to get a lot of input, which we'll be able to submit as part of the recommendation from the committee. I therefore thanks for the officials who are here. And Tate Maisela, you partly answers one of the issues which I wanted to raise, but because of we are summarizing, I'll send it to your office so that you should be able to give us that particular input. I'll request a member Hoffman to do a vote of thanks. Over to you, Mener.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would firstly like to thank the chairperson, Honorable Ndluva Wana, for bringing us here. I think it is important that we get to the ground and find out what bothers the community. To all the other honorable members, thank you for visiting the Vaal. This is my area, and I appreciate you guys coming down to the Vaal. Usually we are in Pretoria's side and the northern side of Gauteng, so thank you to the honorable members. To Mr. Mayisela, thank you for your presentation. We appreciate, we know that you are doing hard work on the roads. We do appreciate, sometimes it doesn't look like that, but we know that it's not an easy job. And we know that there's many constraints that you guys have to deal with. To the SAPS members, to the members of the community, to the organizations that's presented here, the bus organization, thank you for your inputs. Sometimes it feels like it falls on deaf ears, but we do promise that, these things are taken up. And as members of the community said, corruption is our #1 enemy in South Africa. And if we do not work timeously and hard on this issue, it will consume us all. At the end of the day, we will have nothing left to fight for. Thank you very much. In closure, Madam Chair, I think it was a fruitful meeting, and I really want to thank you all for coming out and giving us the moment with you. Thank you, Kia Libocha. Have a nice day. Baie dankie.
Is there food for members of the public? No.
Thank you, Ralebocha, Councillor and your team, and all the stakeholders. We might come back to get a lot of information. The meeting is adjourned.